Okay, hello again. So I am back reading The Vein of Gold, A Journey to Your Creative Heart by Julia Cameron. We are still in the section called Kingdom of Sight, and this time we're reading the section called Doll. It starts on page 127. Okay, so for full transparency, two things. I'm in the library today. It is snowing, so I brought my son here for a little coding program that the kids are doing. But I think a lot of parents had that idea, so there's tons of kids here. So you may hear happy little squills in the background. And then the other thing is, I actually already read this chapter to myself. My friend is also reading this book. And so she read this chapter and she was like, girl, you about to have fun with this one. And so in my excitement, I just went ahead and read it. But the cool thing about that is at the end of this reading, I'm going to go ahead and show the assignment that I did for the first time. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, let's get started. It was my dubious privilege not many years ago to teach at a prestigious university, revered research institution. I was a member of a distinguished faculty, a word that means gift or ability. Lest we forget that specialized in deconstructionist theory, in other words, to a man and woman, they knew a great deal about how to take something apart, but precious little about how to construct anything. Working there broke my heart. Gifted students had their rough but promising early work dismembered, taken apart before it had a chance to come together. The faculty had a gift for quashing anything that felt too raw and full of life. Over and over, I had to remind myself, they're just sad about their own creative selves. They're just out of touch with their own creative joy and don't know it. Our main building was a Gothic glory, bedecked with ivy tatters and reeking of academia. It looked like a remnant of Camelot, and I myself initially undertook my job with visions of higher learning as a sort of secular holy grail. This particular quest was quickly dispelled. I remember one incident vividly. Late on an autumn afternoon, as a golden but fading light was streaming in through the upper windows, I quite literally bumped into a colleague of mine as he and I were going up and down the same staircase. We collided at a landing. "I hear you're into creativity," he exclaimed. Whose? I wasn't sure I'd heard him correctly. "Whose theories?" he asked. "I'm into creativity too. I was wondering whose theories you enjoy." The stairwell echoed with a moment of cavernous silence while I racked my brain for the name of any creativity theorist. Finally, I blurted, "There's a misunderstanding here. I do it." "Do it?" "I make things, create them. You know, films, plays, books, all sorts of toys. Really." Oh dear. Well, lovely to meet you." "And you?" And we went our separate ways. In a sense, those who build things and those who take things apart are always going their two separate ways. The energy of construction and the energy of deconstruction feel very different. Although both are energies of discernment, although both ask the same question, what if? When we are engaged in the act of making something, we are involved in making something up. In a sense, it is quite true that every picture tells a story, and the picture is one that we are developing as our vision becomes more and more clear to us. In this book, we are building on our vein of gold. This means we look to the past to develop the future. The negative of the past may yet develop into a positive, and we can quite literally take a hand in this. I would disagree with those who say we cannot change the past. We can heal it, transform it, utilize it, build on it. Any number of creative things. Why do I mention this now? Because we are about to engage in a particularly childish task, and one I believe to be most powerful. We are going to make dolls. I think it is quite possible you will need a bribe to execute this chapter. Please bribe yourself. In my experience as a teacher, this assignment meets with the most resistance and results in the most reward. Resistance rears its head because perfectionism is lurking in the wings. Who wants to make a bad doll? Sexism usually can be found there as well. Women may feel like this is too much like old lady crafts, and that's wrong. And what's wrong with them? Men may feel just a little unmanned. A doll, I think of it as a totem, if that helps. Perfectionism, sexism, a nasty feeling that now is the time to rebel. If any of these are eddying through your consciousness, join the club. There is something about making a doll that is just so childish. There is something about making a doll that is just so threatening. We want to say it is a stupid idea. We want to say it's a terrible idea. What we don't want to say, but intuitively know, is that it is a powerful idea. According to doll making legend, the original word for doll was idol. We have just lopped off the I. When we make dolls, we are invoking godlike powers. Doll making is a very powerful form of magic. Because we are working directly with the human figure in a form that appeals to our childish self, we are talking directly to our creative consciousness, which in turn speaks directly to our higher self or deep self. Theologian Starhawk phrases it this way: younger self wants to be shown. To arouse its interest, we must seduce it with pretty pictures and pleasurable sensations. Take it out dining and dancing, as it were. Only in this way can deep self be reached. Our course, few things could enchant a younger self more than a doll. Dolls capture the imagination, and the imagination, once captured, can be channeled toward desired ends. Knowing this, it is easy to see why certain religions have barred the use of images, as well as why other religions have used such images to great political effect. As doll makers, Eleanor Peace Bailey writes, "What is there about the representation of human form, however whimsical, that makes people want to possess it? What magic is transferred into that form which gives it power over so many?" The question is not easily answered. Many doll collectors find in them a genteel reminder of their childhoods. All kinds of fantasies can be aroused by dolls. Sometimes divine powers can be invoked through a doll, and it can be seen as a benediction on the households of those who have the faith to receive it. Since his earliest history, man has changed the abstract into simple form and given them the power to heal and enlighten. I live in New Mexico, where many of the churches contain santos, astonishingly powerful hand-carved icons, doll versions dressed in handmade clothes, doll saints and Christ that speak directly to the heart, doing far more to unify the congregations than a wordy sermon can. Writes artist, writer, healer Vicky Noble. Doll making is an elaborate version of creating a fetish. It is more complex and powerful. No wonder those santos cast a powerful spell over the churchgoers' hearts. In Hawaiian Kuna religion, the connection of our subconscious child self is called contacting our ku. Without such contact, our rational mind stays too much in the middle, in control, and our prayers, invocations, and desires for manifestation do not reach our higher selves. In Western creativity theory, this is what Rollo May was talking about when he said that creative insights came in periods of release after intense mental effort to solve a problem. In 12-step language, this is what is meant by the expression, let go and let God. Doll making is a very potent form of turning it over to God. Therefore, dolls are extremely potent tools for manifestation. It is no accident that dolls are used in voodoo, but if dolls can be and have been used negatively, they also can be used positively. And that is what we will be doing here. Just as we have seen that words can be used to call into our life the qualities that we wish to attract and embody, so too dolls can be used to manifest our wishes and dreams. Let us say that you have an area of yourself or your life that feels lacking. Making a doll can help you to manifest the change that you desire. Sometimes the me that the doll expresses is a previously unacknowledged self, larger and more expansive, more potent, and more daring than we had let ourselves feel. I am thinking now of David and the work he did making a creative doll. I put the words in quotes because his creation was not what you might think of as a doll, although that was its starting point. David's doll was more of a mobile. It consisted of a flat piece of flagstone. My grandmother, she is dead, but my mother is still bound to her and drags her with her into everything. A mother doll tied indeed to the flagstone grandmother. 2 paper airplanes, my sister and me tied to my mother, who is still tied to her mother. A knife. I don't really know what the knife is doing, but I had to put it in. David demonstrated how neither he nor his sister could really fly, even though they had wings and were designed for flying. He threw his plane into the air, but the string that bound him to his mother cut short the flight, and his airplane crashed abruptly. Sorry guys, I paused. I thought my son was trying to wave to me, but I was tripping. Okay. David, the knife is there for you to cut yourself free, I told him. Oh yeah, he said, considering the possibility. Freedom, freedom, freedom. The class took up the chant. Freedom, freedom, freedom. For a long moment, David stood stock still and looked at the evidence of what his art revealed to him. Then he grabbed the knife and cut loose the airplane that was David. Like a javelin thrower, he sent it sailing across the room, grinning jubilantly. For David, the act of doll making was one both of self-disclosure and self-emancipation. For his applauding classmates, it was an empowering example. They stamped, cheered, and whistled. I was determined to hate this exercise, he told me. I was very resistant. He was also very brave. Remember Carolyn, the beautiful woman who never knew she was one? When I suggested to Carolyn she might want to try creativity, doll making projects around her 2 images, Egghead and Bombshell, her eyes grew very round, and she furiously blinked back tears. How did you know I never had dolls? I hadn't known that, but it did fit with her being denied knowledge of her feminine appeal. I'd like to make a feminine doll, Carolyn confessed. At least I think I would. Doll making is fun, even if you have had dolls, I assured her. Your doll doesn't even have to look like a real doll. You can make it of whatever you want to make it from, and you can make it say whatever you want it to say. The materials and subject matter are really up to you. When Carolyn made her creativity doll, she began by hauling out a huge box of fabric scraps. Was she a turquoise and orange striped gypsy doll? Was she the femme fatale in black velvet going to opening night? What about the scarlet swirled silk moire? All of them were lovely, but from the bottom of her scrap box, Carolyn hauled out a swath of beautiful old lace. The minute her hands touched it, she knew that this was her fabric. Carolyn set to work on her doll. The head was fashioned from white sheeting, then stuffed with the heart-shaped shield of an old shoulder pad. The body was sheeting stuffed with silk scraps and then swathed in lace. An ornate black and gold Renaissance ribbon remarcated the waist. A streamered, rosette-headed old horse show ribbon, golden, like Carolyn's hair, became the hair. On her heart, Carolyn placed a 5-pointed amethyst earring. I am a star, Carolyn caught herself thinking. I just didn't know it. From one ear, she hung an amethyst and amber earring. A flowered shawl made from an old kitchen curtain completed the doll. Carolyn used a photo of herself to draw on the face, using indelible markers to fill in big blue eyes and pink lips and cheeks. When she was finished, Carolyn gave her doll a place of honor on the mantle. Making the doll felt wonderful, Carolyn told me, as if I were claiming myself by my beautiful self. In the next few months, Carolyn's looks did indeed soften, and she took on a new glow of feminine confidence. To cast it colloquially, she began to look like the doll she really was. For Richard, doll making was an even more assertive act. A mild-mannered man who was actually a very powerful artist, Richard spoke softly and often seemed to view himself as something less than the spiritual warrior he might have wished. In all disputes, he was the mediator, a thankless job he sometimes felt. In fact, it was sometimes a real drag being dependable, reliable, sweet Richard. Richard needed to flex his muscles a little bit and become Yang Man. His creativity doll took a totem form. Out walking, he came upon a dog skull, which he carried home, along with a strong, gnarled stick. Working with felt tipped pins, he painted the skull. The left hand side of the skull had red dots. The right hand had black dots. The background on the left hand side was black. On the right hand side it was red, except across the eyes, where he used a harlequin pattern of black on black and red on red, using strong red twine and baling wire. Richard bound the skull to one end of the stick. The totem was potent. It was all material that was at hand. It was very offhand, easy, and natural, the way that it all came together. Richard says, I did have to boil the skull before I applied the pigment. He adds, laughing like a naughty young boy. It feels a little bit like a talisman. I don't feel precious about it, like it's spooky or mysterious. To me, it feels playful, but I always like there to be a slight bit of danger and creativity. To the eye of this observer, there was something else apparent in Richard's doll, and that was a sense of authority. Sure enough, that is what manifested in his life. Within a few months of his making the doll, task, make a creativity doll, using whatever materials you choose to allow yourself to make a creativity doll. Dolls have been made from sugar and spice and everything nice, as well as from dog skulls and snails and pine cones and tire irons. It's your doll. Remember, you can make a doll to call forward a gift or situation. Angela, a woman who moved to Chicago only to be jilted, made a bride doll for herself shortly after she met the man she really wanted to marry. I'm not saying the doll caused him to propose, but it certainly opened her to the bridal energy, and she had a wonderful time visualizing herself walking happily down the aisle. June, who felt her sexuality had been misplaced in the wake of a devastating divorce, reclaimed it for herself by making a series of small erotic clay goddess figures. Those who have worked with the artist way and built an artist altar often find that to be the ideal home for their new creations. Others find they ensconce their doll on the mantle, in a bookshelf, or next to their computer. If you have focused your doll around a particular quality which you wish to invite into your life, you may want to choose the doll's resting place accordingly. June's erotic goddess inhabit her bedroom and bath. Task, make a creativity monster. Again, choosing whatever materials spring to mind, let yourself create an image that speaks to you about artist bashing. I have seen robotic monsters, booze bottle monsters, monsters made from movie magazine images. You can use a shoebox, a tin can, even as one man in New York did, a vibrator, which represents my metallic sexuality where I have channeled my creative impulses wrongly. In one of my New Mexico classes, Liz made a creativity monster that looked like a classic hag or one of the skeptics from the movie The Dark Crystal. Withered and bent formed from a piece of wood with a shaggy bark, the monster had red, beady eyes and a golden dagger to stab creativity with. Written all over its body were killer words: not good enough, could have, should have, too old, not talented enough. The monster was mounted on a slab of wood covered with more words. The graffiti of the unconscious. You can't. It's too late. Who do you think you are? This is my creativity monster, Liz told her classmates, and I plan for us to burn it. If you do not burn or otherwise demolish your monster, you may wish to give it a place in your home or office. Students have been known to hang tiny out of work signs around their monsters' necks and perch them right in their work area. Often the act of making a monster so minimizes the block it represents that the resulting creation becomes a kind of mascot. Okay, so that was the end. Thank you for your patience as I kept on looking back and forth and just trying to also be a decent mom. Okay, but so I'm gonna show first my doll that I made. I made a paper doll. At first, I had grand ideas of the doll that I wanted to make, but I was pretty limited on time, and I didn't want to cop out on the assignment because of that. So yeah, this is my little paper doll. Yeah, this is her, and she has a little shirt. Under her shirt, she has a belly button and a heart, just to represent that. I am open-hearted and I want to stay that way. She has a little earring, and then she has a little bit of wild hair that is just some scrap, a string. This right now it says enough, but I actually made this little pin be with dry erase marker so I can change what it says, because I don't know, as I was wanting to write something on her I realized I want to be able to evolve. Yeah, she has no pants because I really want to feel free and authentic, and I think that's what this doll represents for me. Yeah, I'm covering her little lady bits. I don't know why. But yeah, it was just important for me to show that part of her too, because I think throughout my life, I've had to reclaim the part of me that is a woman, and so I definitely wanted that to be present. And this little doll, I love her so much. I keep her in my purse. She makes me laugh. Okay, and so, oh gosh. So then for the monster, I also made it out of paper. It's a little pile of poop that I made with some string. And so next to it, it says, you make me feel shitty because you're a piece of shit. Still love you because you're 100% compostable. But yeah. And this has brought a lot of humor into my life too, because sometimes people don't really get what I'm creating, and they'll talk down on it. And sometimes it's people that are close to me, and I know that they honestly just don't get it. So I didn't want to be so harsh. I needed to be kind of playful, and realize that even when people are saying harsh critiques of work that is still evolving me, and I'm still evolving, that whatever they're putting towards me it's still usable, and I'm still grateful for that feedback because it helps me grow. Yeah, just like poop in the compost. Anyways, that was it. Thanks so much for being here with me. I don't think that I would have gotten this far in the book if I wasn't doing this in community. So I'm so, so grateful. Bye for now.